All right, man. I call this guy the king of MMA. I mean, look, obviously you're involved.
King of combat sports. He said it.
No, he said the biggest name. I didn't say the king.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And I see you got dunks. So you try to challenge me with the kick game. You know what I mean? But I like it. I like it. Ariel Helwani. Listen, I mean, you've been here for the weigh-in. Have you ever seen anything like this for women's combat sports in general?
Oh, well, I have to say, first of all, thank you for having me. Great to be here. Big fan of the show.
My pleasure.
By the way, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I remember when I was on your show and you guys asked me at the end of the year, what's your most anticipated fight of 2022? What did I say?
Got to give it to you, brother.
What did I say?
Got to give it to you. You did say that.
And it wasn't even a done deal yet.
Right.
And I said it. I said Taylor Serrano in case you missed it. So it's great for me to be here. It's an honor. It's a privilege.
But wait a minute. Even though you said that, did you think it would be this big? Come on.
No, this is exceeding my expectations. And it's actually reminding me a lot. Let's be honest. The UFC embraced women's fighting a little sooner and quicker than boxing, right?
Yes.
And so this reminds me of the first ever UFC women's match back in 2013. It was Ronda Rousey versus Liz Carmouche, Anaheim, California, Honda Center. This reminds me of that. And of course, it's a bigger deal because it's New York, it's Madison Square Garden, it's all that stuff and more. But you know what's even better about all this? Because I bet there's some guy in Alabama right now or some guy in Florida or some guy in Australia who's like, I don't care about MSG. Doesn't mean anything to me. Well, guess what? 1 versus 2 pound for pound, that means something to everyone. And that never happens. You guys know better than anyone. According to ESPN, they said it, 2008 was the last time this happened in boxing. 1 versus 2, Marquez Pacquiao 2. In MMA, it never happens as well. So that's why it's so special to me. It's not just the nice story of 2 women headlining MSG. It's legit 1 versus 2. That to me is a big deal. And I know Clarissa's here. I hope she didn't hear me say that.
No, she didn't hear.
Perfect. It's 1 versus 3, Clarissa. It's 1 versus 3.
Listen, I like the fact that you said the best are fighting the best. It doesn't even happen in MMA because the MMA fans beg to differ. I constantly hear, in the UFC, we fight the best. That's why boxing is struggling. I don't see boxing struggling, and I see a lot of big fights happen in the sport of boxing. Why does MMA fans see it that way?
Well, they've been sort of programmed to believe that boxing is struggling, programmed to believe that boxing is dead. And I feel like sometimes in the world of MMA, I'm sitting on an island and I'm trying to remind them time after time, legitimately, and you guys know working for Dazn, I'm not just saying it because I'm on the platform, it's every weekend there's a big event, right? Next weekend it's Canelo. Last weekend you had Fury and White, 94,000 people. There aren't MMA fights drawing 94,000 people, I could tell you that. Boxing, dare I say, is actually healthier right now than MMA. Why? Because the fighters have options. They have opportunities to make more money.
Applaud this man.
Yes, it's true. And this is coming from a guy who grew up a boxing fan. As I think I told you, I'm from Montreal. I grew up watching Arturo Gatti at the Bell Center. I knew what boxing was before I even knew what the UFC and MMA was. And so
it wasn't around, that's why.
It wasn't around, but also I was a 10-year-old kid, when the UFC came around and when MMA was a thing. So it wasn't like I was an old guy.
Yeah.
The point is, this idea that MMA is doing so much better than boxing, that boxing is dead, is such hogwash nonsense. It drives me nuts. It is literally every weekend there's a big fight. Like a weekend like this one, there's 2 big fights going on both coasts.
There's only one fight that hasn't happened yet, and that's Spence versus Crawford. Every other fight is basically happened.
I feel like it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I feel like it's going to happen this year.
And then what? We can't never say that about boxing again, but they'll still say that. The narrative will still be the same. But listen, in the UFC, women and men basically have the same rules. But here in boxing, but boxing comes from a long time ago where men thought differently when they created it. So we got 2-minute rounds for women. What do you think about that? Serrano was like, hey, let's do 3 minutes.
They need to catch up to the times. In MMA, it's 5-minute rounds.
Right. For everybody.
For everybody. And it used to be 3-minute rounds for the women. And then they upped it to 5 very early on in the process. It needs to be. I kind of feel like it's the one sort of cloud hanging over this because selfishly, I want to see more of them. I think this fight is going to go the distance, and I think it's going to be amazing, but we're only going to get 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Rounds,
yes.
It goes
we're
so
going to get
fast.
20 minutes. That's nothing. I mean, 2-minute rounds, by the time you blink, we're down to like 45 seconds. So I do think that they should make it 3-minute rounds.
Let's shift gears real quick. Next week, is that going to go the distance? Canelo, Bivol, Las Vegas? What's your take on that matchup? I feel like people are not giving Bivol the credit that he deserves.
He's being disrespected. Yeah. A lot of people, including in the sport of MMA, you have Kamaru Usman, who's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in mixed martial arts, UFC welterweight champion.
Who's calling Canelo out of his mind.
He's calling Canelo out. We could talk about that. He's sort of tugging at his coattails, unlike what's happening with Fury and Ngannou, where Fury's kind of taking Ngannou in and saying, like, come here, let's do this together. Canelo's like, who are you? And I don't think it's a great look for Usman, if I'm being honest.
Right.
But in doing that, and in Usman trying to get his attention, he's disrespecting Bivol, and I think a lot of people are disrespecting respecting Bivol. This guy's tough. He's game. Now, ultimately, am I picking him to win? No. I think Canelo wins, and I think he wins via stoppage. But if anyone, like, just because he's not a household name, it doesn't mean that he's a bum. Canelo's doing a lot of things. He's breaking records. He's trying to make his own history. And you know what I love most about Canelo, can I just say? The man is active.
Right.
He doesn't just show up every year.
But you think that's unfair, the fact that Bivol isn't a household name? People are looking at this just as another opponent for Canelo, another strap. But he's fighting a legitimate world champion, but people base it on the notoriety.
Listen, it's not always going to be Canelo Triple G, and maybe we'll get that later on this year. This is the fun thing about the sport of boxing. By the way, I remember in this building in November, I believe, there was a guy named Teofimo Lopez who fought a guy named George Kambosos, who a lot of people didn't really know about, right? A lot of people thought that Teofimo was going to roll right through him, and what happened? Changed everything. They're about to fight in Australia in front of thousands and upon thousands of people. I remember in that building right next door, there was a guy named Anthony Joshua who fought someone named Andy Ruiz, and what happened that night? So that's why we love this, because on any given Saturday night, someone can shock the world.
That's right, absolutely.
You did the face-off, and moving back to what's going on tomorrow night, the fact that these women are so gentle, soft-spoken, so sweet outside the ring, it must be tough to create some friction between that face-off with you. Like, how was that
Were you
experience?
even trying to do that? Were you trying to get a little rise out of them?
Sometimes people accuse me of being an instigator.
You were.
Listen, I'm just a guy who asks questions, all right? I just ask questions because I'm an inquisitive mind. But listen, it's nice when there's two guys who hate each other. And then sometimes you have a situation where I actually enjoy the challenge of, okay, they're respectful. They aren't trash talkers. To be honest, they probably didn't even want to do it, if we're being honest, right? Like, they don't like that sort of thing. So I enjoy the challenge of trying to disarm them, break them down, and almost make them feel like there isn't a camera over there, there's no one watching, and it's just three friends, so to speak, talking about an upcoming fight. And I feel, dare I say, that as the thing went on, they were getting more and more comfortable, and by the end, they were even cracking jokes about each other. So it's a different dynamic. By the way, I think that's what we like about fighting. If every single fight was two guys, look at this card on Saturday. Vargas and Smith. Those guys don't seem to be on the same page. They don't like each other. If every fight had that intensity, it would be a lot, right?
A little repetitive.
So it's nice when you have that, and then you have Taylor and Serrano. You could tell they want to beat each other. You could tell there's a rivalry there. There's a competitive spirit there. But it doesn't always have to be crap talking every time. So I enjoyed it.
If there was no peaceful fighters, we would have nothing to compare it to.
Of course. And different strokes for different folks, right? You got the respectful ones, like Canelo's a respectful guy for the most part, and then you got the bad boys. And then, you know,
Before we get out of here, we got a prediction, Taylor Serrano, from you?
Well, I have to say, I looked at the lines, and I was shocked that Katie Taylor is the underdog, with all due respect to Amanda Serrano. And I think part of the reason why she's the underdog, if we're being honest, is maybe her last two performances didn't really wow the crowd. I think
and Amanda is being very dominant in her
She's
fights.
being dominant, and I think the Jake Paul effect is real, and she's getting that platform here in America, and a lot of people are hyped about her. But I think that Katie is so good, she's been lacking motivation. She's been lacking that foil, right? She's been lacking that challenge. I think she sees the challenge here.
Natasha Jonas didn't challenge her? Come on.
Come on.
No, but that was a big enough name.
Oh, by the way, you can almost make a case that she lost one of these last couple fights. But I'm saying I don't know if she's up for those fights because she's been doing this for so long, right? Okay. Olympics 2012. I'm just saying she recognizes this moment, and I'm really curious to see how Amanda looks early on in this fight. Because let's be real, Katie has been on these big stages before. Two-time Olympian, Olympic gold medalist in 2012. She has fought at Madison Square Garden before. Amanda has never fought at Madison Square Garden, and her biggest fights were just recently on the Jake Paul cards. And I was at those fights, and the scene wasn't this. It just wasn't. Now, it's going to be raucous. It's going to be hyped. It's going to be crazy energetic. I just wonder if the nerves early on in those first couple rounds will get to her.
But does she seem like somebody that gets nervous?
Well,
seriously.
I don't know.
Does she?
We'll see.
Does she seem? I'm
the
asking,
official
does
prediction,
she
though,
seem
is
like it, though?
Katie via decision.
All right. Thanks, Ariel. Appreciate it.
I know it's going on and on over there. I get hyped about these things. I'm excited to be here.
As you can see, the biggest names in combat sports are part of this event. You guys don't want to miss this tomorrow. Catch us tomorrow live.